ADHD Babes, the podcast. A podcast hosted by the ADHD Babes community for the community. Please note, nothing mentioned during the podcast is meant as a diagnosis. If you believe you have ADHD, please seek professional advice and visit or join ADHDbabes.com for help with diagnosis. No clinical diagnosis is required to join. And now, you're listening to the next episode of ADHD Babes, the podcast.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of ADHD Babes, the podcast. Today's episode is hosted by me, Shereen, and today we're going to be discussing social anxiety and how it connects with ADHD and how to deal with it. Joining in on the discussion, we are joined by guest/ADHD babes, Allison and Eden. So, it can be common for people with ADHD to also have coexisting anxiety condition, such as social anxiety, which is known as a fear of social situations. But like with anything, there is a spectrum. As an ADHD babe, do you feel anxious in social situations, or is it certain situations?
I'd say yes to both. My anxiety comes from being social with people, but it's not every single social situation. It's sometimes certain, depends on how I'm feeling, if I know these people, depends on lots of different things. I am on meds for depression and anxiety, so that probably has a factor for it. As it's a lot better than it used to be. But yeah, it definitely ebbs and flows with what else is going on with my life or where I'm going socially and what I'm doing.
Yeah, I find that when it comes to social anxiety, a big factor can be like the people that you're with. Like if you know that you're going to hang out with a certain group of people that you feel really comfortable and you can just be yourself, that you know that it's going to be like minimal, if anything. So I totally get how it can vary and factor. I totally get that.
Exactly. Yeah, I have some friends where I'm happy to go even in my pajamas and meet them and I'll be fine. And then other things I feel like I need to dress up for, or I just know that I would like to be in a certain headspace.
Yeah.
Or have gotten stuff done for the day, so I have the energy and capacity to fully be there and not be worried about what I'm doing and how I'm presenting.
Yeah, I totally feel that. How about you, Allison?
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying, Eden, because when you are going to go into those social situations, it's one of those where is it? Who is it? Do I feel comfortable even getting to that place? Because that's one of the things I have a real issue with, is knowing where I'm going. And even though, Google Maps, etc., I actually can get really sort of het up if it's not straightforward, even with an Uber or something like that. Just sometimes you have a complete, the anxiety kind of takes over and you kind of forget, I actually do know where this place is, but because you can't necessarily sort of filter through it. And similarly, I had an actual diagnosis of anxiety and clinical depression and was on medication for a really long time. And I've since come off it. However, even just recently, I had a situation where I booked to do something that I really wanted to do, but my brain just went into overdrive and I kind of anxietied myself out of going. And when I look back on it, it's actually, you didn't have the capacity for that event. It wasn't necessarily the people, it wasn't even necessarily the event, but it had been quite an emotional day without realizing it. So by the time I'd got ready, I then procrastinated to a point where it's too late to leave. And then it was Oh, okay. Okay, now you're in your pajamas and you're comfy. You understand what's going on, kind of thing. So,
I've done that many times. You know you should be somewhere and you're like, yeah, I should probably go. And then you're like, oh, wait, the event started 3 hours ago. Oh, wow.
Never mind. Netflix.
Exactly.
I literally did that the other night. I started getting ready to go to a night out and I was doing my hair and like I was trying to get like the plaits like really nice. And I basically hyper focused on that for 3 to 4 hours. And then I realized I was like, oh, the event has basically finished. Guess I'm not going anymore. But I still continued doing that plait on my hair because I wanted to get it right, even though I needed to be in bed like hours ago. So yeah, anxiety is weird. It sometimes does that. Even though like you really want to go to the event, your brain still stops you. It's a very weird experience.
Yeah, it really is. It's like, I don't know, it can be quite difficult because I also have anxiety and depression as well. And it's like, depending on like how you're feeling, sometimes even when you feel really low, sometimes you would welcome the company, but you don't know how the company is kind of going to, I don't know, what's the word? If they're like able to accept you in the state that you are, if that makes sense, because I've had that quite a few times where like you just know, you can just tell when people just don't want to know, like if you're not happy and like la, 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 they're just like, yeah, like what's wrong with you? But you want to feel safe and you want to feel cared for and you want to be able to feel like you can just be yourself essentially, but it's difficult.
Or sometimes I go the other way where it's like, okay, I can do this. And then I'm like super on and it's just like this whole stream of I must connect, I must talk to everybody. And I'm like here, there, everywhere. And if you didn't know me, you'd think I was high or something like that. Or I, next a load of Red Bull, or because I'm just like the most sociable person. And then I'll probably crash and, disappear a lot in the event. And again, this happened quite recently as it's Black History Month, been going to certain things. And I was at an event recently where I was talking to everybody and, catching up with people. And then when the thing actually started, I kept having to go to the toilet and I realized actually I just need to recharge. It's not even that I need the toilet. I just need to get away from that space. So yeah, the anxiety can either make me not leave or push me out the door and then send me into this really hyped up space. And then, so then you end up, okay, can you judge that? Can you sort of predict whether that's going to happen? And then you end up not going because I don't know where I'm going to end up being, sort of thing. Am I going to exhaust myself in the first 50 minutes? Just because I haven't sort of worked out where my head's at, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. It totally makes sense. And it feels like a bit like a chicken and the egg situation, which came first. The anxiety because of having to mask ADHD symptoms in a social situation in order to assimilate, or is it anxiety all on its own? Does anyone feel like this?
I've never really thought about it that way, actually. I think it's hard to answer that question because ADHD is a brain difference. So we've had it from birth and we will always have it till the end of our lives. And I don't know if it's confirmed genetic, but I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah.
And so like, I guess from that point of view, you could say the ADHD was there and therefore that was it. Wait, that wasn't the question that you asked. Sorry. Let me start again.
No, what you were saying was making sense. Like,
okay.
Yeah.
So I think because ADHD is a brain difference that we've had from birth and will have for the rest of our lives, and it's genetic. So there will always be a judgment because of our neurodivergence from the norm. And whether we are told that our behavior is different or wrong, or we are unwanted, or we are told that we're fun, and that we're likable and people want to be around us, or we ourselves realize that we are different to other people and question that, and that brings on the anxiety. I feel like because of the society we live in, especially in England, where it's quite like proper and stiff upper lip and don't say this and that and do this and that. Don't be too excited. Like, I'm sorry, why are we not allowed to be too excited? Like, why is too excited a thing? Just side note, like, that's really weird. Why are you dampening my happiness?
Yeah, if the happiness is flowing, like, let me have it flow. Like, it's going to disappear in a second. Like, leave me alone.
Like, the fact that that's part of our culture, like, make it make sense. It does not. So, like, so because of our society that we live in and because of all those things, I think we're going to be judged no matter what. And then because of that judgment, that's where the anxiety comes from. Because I was thinking about, like, where is, like, the cause of my anxiety? Is it anxiety about general stuff, or is it anxiety, social anxiety? And I was thinking it's the judgment from other people that causes me the anxiety. Because I'm like, I have been judged through my life, and people have stopped being friends with me because of they didn't like how I behaved. Whether that was right or wrong is up to them. It's nothing to do with me. It's their feelings what happened. But because I have had those experiences in my life, I know that that's a possibility that can happen. So it's like, oh, I'm meeting new people. Is this going to happen down the line? Are they going to like me? Are they not? Are they going to make fun of me because I was bullied for expressing myself at school? I've also been told by my family, oh, don't say this, calm down and stuff like that. So I think that in society, we get suppressed so much that it comes out as anxiety, whether we figure out, oh, we're different than other people, or people tell us that we're different. Yeah, I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, no, everything you said, but I can totally relate to. Like, for instance, I've recently started uni after being inside the house for 3 summers. And I have actually worried about friendships and meeting people and what will they think of me, and something has already happened and it's I haven't done anything. And then you sometimes it just makes you go in on yourself and you're like, well, how am I meant to be? But it's no, you should just be yourself. But it's when it keeps happening repeatedly, it can be quite hard to deal with. So everything you said, yeah, I totally, I'm totally feeling that, and I totally understand.
When I was younger, I remember asking my mum, what do people want from me? Why are people saying this to me? What can I do to change myself to be accepted by others? I remember basically asking those questions with the language that I had at the time. And I just feel so sad for my younger self and sad for my current self, because sometimes I do still feel like that. I had a dentist appointment today, and I really did not want to get out of bed because I was thinking, oh, I'm probably going to be shamed because I have problems with remembering to brush my teeth, which is part of my ADHD.
Yeah.
And I'm not scared of the dentist at all. It's fine. It was the judgment from someone that sees different types of teeth every single day. And my teeth aren't bad. They're fine. But I know that judgment is there. Everyone judges people. It's internal bias. It's just a thing that we do that's how like safety and stuff works in the brain. But like me knowing that, like I judge people all the time, like it just happens. But me knowing other people to like perceive me and like think thoughts about me and like that, I don't like that. Sometimes I just don't want to be perceived. I'm just like, I don't exist. No, thank you. Do not look at me. I am not here. Do you know that song Mr. Cellophane from I think it's Chicago, the musical? Yeah, I'm like that.
I'm sorry, I've never watched that. I don't know if that's bad, but I've never seen it. Okay.
No, it's fine.
Okay, it seems like it is bad that I've never seen it.
It's a good musical. It's one of my favorites. I recommend you watch it. It is about like women murderers and like them getting off of the sentence by like showbiz stuff, basically.
Okay.
But it's a good ride.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's cool. But yeah, so there's a song called Mr. Cellophane. It's about him like basically being invisible. And I'm like, sometimes I want to be Mr. Cellophane.
Do you ever just
like,
burst out into song and you're like...
Oh, all the time. All the time. It's one of my biggest stims. I'm like, yeah, I'm like singing like Mr. Cellophane, but like don't perceive me, even though I'm being loud and boisterous and like don't perceive me. How dare you? How very, very dare you perceive me whilst I'm like this? Rude of you.
So how about you, Allison? Would you say that your anxiety comes from having to mask because of the ADHD or just the anxiety on its own?
So a bit like Eden, I kind of was thinking about this, and so it's really interesting. As I'm sitting here talking to you all, I'm like, my legs going, I'm fiddling with my bangles, do you know what I mean? And I suddenly realised that this is my space where I can unmask. So I've spent the whole of my life masking without realising it. Yes, I got diagnosed last year, and literally today,
Same.
The whole imposter syndrome of, should I really be coming on this? Because, you know, have I really got this? As I literally have spent the whole day wandering around my house aimlessly, not doing anything until this moment. Because until now, my day couldn't start. So it's like, and again, that is ADHD, but it is anxiety inducing because you then in the spiral of, come on now, why can't I motivate myself? You're not depressed, you're not anxious. Why are you anxious about this? Boom, the spiral. And, you know, it's the most classic ADHD thing, but at the same time, it's also like, I must be able to think my way out of this. I can logic my way out of it. I can bargain, and, you know, all these other things add to your anxiety. And I think as well, you know, the very real fact that as Black people in this society, our anxiety levels have already, from before we were born, our anxiety levels were going to be a certain place, you know? And I think that's an element that isn't necessarily something that we consciously consider because we've got all this other stuff going on, and it's like, oh yeah, that's going on as well, you know, when you get those intersections, because you're not running around the world. I'm not out here going, look at me with my Black bi woman, this, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to do today. Okay. You
just want to exist.
Yeah. I just want to get through each day without causing any harm and not causing myself any harm. And, you know, maybe have a bit of a bop in my kitchen, go for a roller skate. That's a good day. But yeah, when my brain goes, I think that, and then, you know, with the neurodivergence, trying to slow brain down makes you even more anxious. And yeah, I think knowing that I have ADHD explains the anxiety, but I think even without ADHD, I'd have been at a level of anxiety just by being Black in England. You know?
It's like also like before I got my ADHD diagnosis, which I found out last January, I was diagnosed with severe depression and anxiety for like over a decade. But it's not until that was realized and then I started meds and things like it did. Obviously, it doesn't fix everything, but it like helped. It improved like so much, and I fell back in love with stuff that I thought I'd lost the love for. And it's just like, wow, it's amazing how much like everything kind of can tie into ADHD, but you don't know until you get the diagnosis for it, or yeah, stuff like that.
Can I just before you move on, I just wanted to delve more into what Allison just said about Black anxiety, in the sense that obviously us as ADHDers, we tend to internalize people with inattentive type, and women with combined or hyperactivity type as well tend to have that inside. So as a Black person, and you mentioned imposter syndrome, for me, that made me being Black in the UK worse, because I was surrounded by white people who their perception of what is beautiful then played on my self-esteem and stuff like that. So I just wanted to explore that a little bit more, in terms of like, you know, how that might have kind of actually kind of led to getting, you know, having a diagnosis of anxiety, and maybe how that has delayed your ADHD diagnosis. Does that make sense?
I heard that a lot of people with ADHD get misdiagnosed with depression and social anxiety before they get the ADHD diagnosis. And I think that that's because the lows for us are so low. And then being Black also is another reason why we don't get diagnosed with ADHD. And I'm an AFAB non-binary person, so being a woman or socialized as one, that's another reason to not get diagnosed with ADHD. So like you kind of get pushed into the, oh, this is the most simple explanation. So let's just put you in this one and see if that happens, instead of actually exploring fully, why are you feeling anxious? Is there anything else that links to other stuff? I've only had one GP before that's asked me like continuing questions like that actually get to the bottom of what my issues are. And they also happen to be a Black woman. So if you don't have those people that actually care, then you're not going to get the things that you need. And me, I am actually from a majority white place. I live in coastal Kent, and I have for my whole life, apart from going to university. So, and I didn't even realize that I was Black until like maybe the end of primary school, start of secondary school. So I was always trying to assimilate with my peers, and I never could, because I was always going to be different than them, but I didn't know that at the time. And I think that having to deal with that pressure of being Black and trying to find people that are like you and have the same interests, and also deal with your neurodivergency, whether you know it or not, and coping with what's going on in the world. Plus, probably you're being a teenager at the time and hormones are raging. Everything is just so much. And the intersectionalities of trying to figure out who you are, what you want, how to get that, what's worth it, what's not, what capacity you have for those things, even if you do want those things, is so tough. And then you have the added oppressions from all those intersections as well on top. It's hard. And honestly, no wonder we have anxiety. Like Allison was saying that we have it from birth. I read something about how generational trauma is literally within our DNA. So all that trauma, if you are a descendant of an enslaved person, those responses are within your DNA. And it's not surprised that most of us are traumatized in some way, and it comes out in anxiety.
Mm.
A lot of the stuff that's going on that I'm talking about in therapy personally, and what I've talked about with my friends, is that it's stuff just like systematic oppression things that's never going to change. That's a lot of what my anxiety is about. So like finances, social justice things,
healthcare.
Just healthcare, and just like just everything that, like, all the basic necessities that you need, especially with this cost of living crisis, if you want to call it that, that's going on. So yeah, there's a lot of things for us to be anxious about in general, as Black people, without having the anxiety of ADHD and being judged because we're different on top of that. So yeah, there's so many intersectional things, especially as me, who is a non-binary, trans, bisexual / queer person as well. And I'm visibly so because I have facial hair. Like, that's another layer of judgment that I could be judged about. I don't know what people are thinking in their heads. I don't even know what I'm thinking in my head sometimes, let alone what someone else is thinking in their own head. So like, yeah, anxiety. Yeah, I'm not surprised I have anxiety, to be quite honest. And I'm not surprised many of my friends do. There's a lot to be anxious about. And yeah, I would just rather stay home sometimes because my home is comfy. My office is my bed, and I have all the things that make me happy.
Snaps.
Yeah. Why would I leave? Make me an offer that would bring me out of my safe space, please. What do you have to offer to me?
Can you write that in a statement just so I can have it as well? Because that is absolutely perfect.
Let's get a card. Like, it's like, I know,
t-shirts.
Like, yeah. What are you offering? What are you putting on the table? I remember some of my Black American friends, they were saying that like a common thing is when you get invited to an event, is to say like, who are gonna be there? And it's like, who's there? Is there gonna be food? Like, what is the offer that you're presenting to me to get me out of my comfort and bequeath you with my presence that you are most honored to have, evidently.
Yeah.
So
So Allison, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm loving the idea of having a t-shirt saying, what are you offering? What is it going to take? I love that. But I was going to say, it's really interesting about the thing with imposter syndrome, because so from a professional perspective, I used to work as a youth worker, and then I now work I'm self-employed, and I do D&I, diversity and inclusion training and consultancy, and specifically I look at this kind of stuff. And one of the things that I actually train on is the fact that as Black people who are socialized as women, or who are present as women, or are assigned female at birth, we essentially aren't necessarily feeling imposter syndrome. Because if you look at the spaces that we're in, they ain't for us, professionally and as well as personally. When it comes to imposter syndrome as Black people, and with the intersection of gender as well, those spaces aren't created for us. And so it's not really that what we're feeling is perfectly valid. We don't belong in those spaces. They were never meant for us. And they're always going to move the goalposts, make the hoops smaller, whatever it is, to make clear that we don't belong there. So the whole concept of imposter syndrome, which fundamentally, it works for white women because they expect to be in that space because they are trying to carve that space for themselves. It's not us. So, but then when I look at, so last year I got both my ADHD diagnosis and I also got a diagnosis of endometriosis, because neither of those conditions did I think I even had. So I didn't go looking for diagnosis because I thought I had ADHD. It was, oh, what's going on with my daughter? Let me see what the process is for her to get referred because I think she might have ASD. And the next thing I'm like, wait, let me mention this to my therapist. And they all went, yes, we couldn't suggest it, but yes, go do what you need to do. Go. So it's like,
finally, the penny has dropped. Oh my God. And I can speak now.
It was like, okay, I'm not seeing, all right then. And off I went. And it's really weird because it was all the childhood stuff. So all the stuff from school. So again, I went to a very white English middle class all girl grammar school. So I got in through academically through an 11 plus, but I'm coming from inner city Birmingham. So like I'm coming from one of the predominantly black areas of the city, but then going to school with all these white middle class English girls in this very all girl. It was like something out of an Enid Blyton book, it was very traditional, very quaint and all this kind of stuff. And so I learned how to do that, not even code switching, literally chameleon between being in school and, playing French horn, for God's sake. How many black girls from the inner city are playing a French horn, for God's sake? But there was me one, bad. That's all I can say. The poor neighborhood. God bless them. I'm doing that while at the same time, hanging out on road with my mates. Do you know what I mean? It's no wonder we end up having this imposter syndrome because we're having to be all these different things all at once at the same time. And then, as you say, if you add in the general growth of puberty and adolescence where you don't know who the hell you are anyway, it's a real mind blow. And when I went to uni in Lancaster. So I thought, because I'd been to this all-girl grammar school with all these white people, I don't know what's up. And then I got there and I'm the only black person in my halls. I'm the only black person on my course. I literally was referred to as the black barmaid.
Wow.
Like, I had
Can you not just be a barmaid?
Yeah, but I'm the only black person that works in a bar in the entire city, so I'm the black barmaid. It was wild. And so, all that stuff, it's like, no wonder I'm a bit, twitchy. I didn't associate it with ADHD at all. I just thought, well, yeah, I'm going to be a bit, don't know who I am, don't know what's going on, constantly thinking. And as I say, it was only when I mentioned it to them, they went, go get that checked out. Like now, we can see it. We've seen it all along.
I don't know, it's kind of interesting, like, how you find out about, like, your diagnosis, because this is a little bit, but if my stepdad hadn't have died and he was the first person in, like, around that was kind of close-ish to me that I know to pass, if that hadn't have happened and I hadn't had a complete breakdown and then my doctor was like, you need to see a psychiatrist or whatever for a while, and then we'd speak on the phone for like an hour or so and it wasn't too long and she was just like, you don't have BPD. I know that other lady's been saying that you have it, but you don't. You have ADHD and you should definitely, she was like, I'm 99% sure you have it. And then here we go. 2 years later, and I'm like, it's weird what happens in life that kind of leads you to finding out that you have it, because that is a very unfortunate way to find out. But if that, I don't know, it's weird because if that hadn't happened, I'd still be sitting here not knowing, not being able to function, not being able to, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
That's really interesting because a death was the reason that I started on my journey. So when I was at university, a lot of my grandparents unfortunately died, but because of the stress of university and also the stress of the deaths, kind of came together and impacted me so bad that I finally sought help for my mental health. And then I went down the path of depression, anxiety, and then because my brother is also autistic, we've been thinking that I was autistic for a while. So I was like, you know what, let's finally get an autism diagnosis. Went to get an autism diagnosis. They said, you've got some of it, but not all of it. And at the last minute, I said, oh, I'm always late. And she said, maybe you have ADHD instead. And I was like, I don't have ADHD. I'm not hyper all the time. And then I went and got an ADHD diagnosis, and turns out I had. But you struggle so much because you think it's the norm until you can't, until you struggle, until you can't go on anymore. And then you get help. But I feel like it has to be pushed to the point of you literally cannot function anymore, especially as Black women perceived people, because we're always like the strong Black woman, the people that can care for ourselves. I'm the eldest out of the two, so I also have the eldest daughter thing and all that responsibility and stuff. So you literally push yourself and push yourself and push yourself to burn out and burn out and burn out and burn out. It took me 1 whole year after university just to recover, to be able to be a human again, basically. That's how far I pushed myself before I sought help, because when we're told the help isn't there when we go for it.
And it shouldn't have to be that way, like that, or you shouldn't have to struggle, you shouldn't have to fight for stuff. You should just be able to basically just exist how you are. And it's just, yeah. So
exactly.
So there can be overlapping symptoms between ADHD and social anxiety, such as difficulty socializing, inattention, and trouble completing tasks. Have either of you noticed this? Allison, you want to go?
Yeah, as I said, today is a classic example of sitting with my to-do list that I very diligently sat down to make this morning. And one of the first things I checked was what time this Zoom was, and then went into complete inaction for the rest of the day, because what if I miss it? What if I'm late? What if? And that is anxiety. And so there were a couple of phone calls that I had to make. And one of them, it was actually not a stressful phone call, but I'd worked myself up so much. And when I spoke to this person, she was really sweet and she was really lovely. And she was like, we're only agreeing what time we're meeting next week. That's it. You could have just sent me a text. But because I'd said I'd phone her, I had to phone, even though I didn't actually have to, but I'd worked myself up so much. And to be honest, I'm genuinely not stressed about this. This isn't something that I was stressing about, but because, this concrete thing is happening at this time, until that time comes, nothing's getting done. But I only realise that now.
Yeah, I believe that is called ADHD paralysis, basically, where your brain won't let you do anything else apart from that one thing that you have in the afternoon. Because, as you said, what if you miss it? What if you get distracted and hyper-focus? Or what if you do too much and then you don't have the capacity to do the thing? It's all of the what ifs, which is part of anxiety as well. But it is also part of ADHD, because we're looking at all of the different options because our brain connects that way. So unfortunately, that can be very overwhelming and put us into task paralysis, which really, really sucks. I think that waiting mode is like a thing that can happen to anyone, but it's worse for people with ADHD because of ADHD paralysis. So I think they go together is what I understand from it. But yeah.
I used to get really bad anxiety attacks and I didn't realize that's what they were. But I then, because I had this diagnosis of anxiety, I would, do my grounding techniques and calm myself down and, think that I was on top of it. And I then realized that, so walking around my house aimlessly, actually that's not anxiety. But in my head, I'd assumed that that's why I did it. I'm pacing up and down because I must be anxious, when in reality, actually, that pacing and walking around is a stim for me, but I didn't know that. And so it's really interesting that part of the reason I actually came off the antidepressant and anxiety meds last year was, as soon as I had my diagnosis, I suddenly started realizing, hang on, actually, that's probably not anxiety. Actually, the racing thoughts, yes, that is anxiety, but I don't feel that anxiety in my body like I would for an anxiety attack. It's all my brain just connecting, and it's not even stressful things. It's like, what's that noise? Oh, what was that thing called that I used to watch when I was a kid? And I just thought that was anxiety of me trying to avoid processing my stuff, when in reality, that's how my brain goes. And it doesn't mean that I'm stressed or in distress. And again, not to go back, but when we come to describe these things to particularly mental health professionals, especially when you look at what services they offer, it's kind of like anything that can fit into that CBT, positive thinking, change the way you think sort of model. That's where you get funneled. But it doesn't matter how much I do those grounding techniques or how many times I do the CBT activities, actually my brain is going to race. And that's okay, because that's the speed it goes at. It's cool, So yeah, that was the only thing about the overlapping symptoms that I kind of remembered.
I kind of like the fact that you said that, like, my brain is going to race and that's okay.
Yes.
Because my brain races all the time. Like, I started a master's and I've just been having panic attacks. I've not been okay. Like, it's just been weird. And it's just like, to think that it's okay for your brain to race, that it's okay for these things to happen, it's just, it feels like such a foreign concept. But to hear you actually say it, my brain was just like, wait a sec. Actually, it is a part of you. It is okay. It's something that happens. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's just when you said that, my brain kind of went, boop.
No, I'm really glad. I'm really glad, because to be fair, that is 15 years of therapy and I'm still going. So, but actually, yeah, there's a certain level of, what's my circle of control? And the reality is how my brain functions is out of my control. It functions. It's been doing it for 45 years. Fair play. We've made it this far. And actually now I'm in the place of, let's find out what else is part of this brain working. Because until now, I didn't have that reference point for it. And I can't lie, some of that has had a massive impact on my anxiety, because actually I know it's not anxiety. Actually, I know this is how my brain functions. So yeah, I don't know if that's other people's experiences, but definitely knowing that actually when I feel anxious, I actually feel like this.
Yeah.
Whereas when this is going on, I don't have that feeling. So that's how Allison's brain is today. Let's go with that. It's good. It's all cool.
No, I like that. That made me. I haven't had many reasons to smile in the last week, but I like that. I like that one.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Like, I had the same reaction as you, Shereen. I was like, oh, that did a good thing in the brain. Like, gave me the realization. Bling. Yeah. I I was kind of on that journey that you were talking about, Allison, but I wasn't there. So like you voicing it out loud, I feel like has moved me along and allowed me to accept that myself in that. Like, because sometimes you think stuff and do stuff like in therapy and like stuff like that, but when you hear it from an outside, it just hits different. So I'm really glad that like I did come here today, because these, just talking with other people that are in the same situations really, and just sharing experiences and stuff, is just so enlightening and heartwarming. And you just get little snippets of things that you're like, oh yeah, I can use that, thank you. Or like sometimes you might not need it now, but you might need it later. Or you can share something with other people, and it's just this warms my heart.
Love to everyone.
Yes, love to everyone. I definitely like looking at like those specific three that you've said about anxiety and ADHD symptoms. I had the thing with like, now I know that it's ADHD because I was diagnosed a year ago this summer. I'm sort of constantly looking back on my life and being like, oh, this thing was an anxiety. This thing was ADHD. Like the racing thoughts. Literally today, I saw something on Instagram and it said like practicing arguments or like going over discussions with people over and over and over again. I was like, I thought I was really weird for doing that. But no, it's an ADHD thing. And I thought that was part of my anxiety. So I was like, oh, I've had this argument with someone. I want to be prepared for something if it happens the next time. But no, it's just my ADHD brain processing it. Maybe it's preparing for the next time. Maybe it's processing the thing that happened and trying out different things because my brain likes to do that. I don't know. But it's an ADHD thing, and that is okay. I am not weird for it. It is just how my brain works. And now I can accept it and not feel abnormal and abstract and like an alien because I do that. So, yeah, I think the fact that so many symptoms of things like anxiety and ADHD overlap. I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to society because nothing exists in a vacuum and everything is intertwined and intersectional. I remember someone asking me like about like trauma and ADHD, and they said like, what is trauma and like what is neurodivergence? And I was like, well, currently there's no one in the world, in this society, Western society, that is neurodivergent and not traumatized, because that's how this society works, unfortunately, because of capitalism and patriarchy and etc. So there's no control group, as we say in the scientific community, to that you would be able to compare traumatized neurodivergent people with and untraumatized neurodivergent people with. So I think that the intersections of trauma and anxiety and neurodivergent symptoms, they are always going to be interlinked and overlapping because of our life experiences and how we live and how our society is. So yes, I have difficulty socializing. The reason for it may be a bit different, but I don't think it really matters sometimes because the outcome is the same. Like my trouble completing tasks, is it because I'm worried or is it because I'm overstimulated stimulated. Like sometimes it matters like that because it's a different cause and that helps. And finding the cause helps with the problem. But when it's something, because it's literally just how my brain works, like sometimes that's just how it be. And you just gotta deal with that. And if the meds don't work all the way how they should with other people, then maybe it's something else. I don't know. Yeah. I feel like that wasn't like proper thoughts. I was grabbing
No,
stuff.
no.
But yeah, hopefully that makes sense.
No, it made sense. Like, don't worry. You also made me like
a little,
like you and Allison have kind of been
a little crab.
If anyone could actually see you doing that right now, but if that's in the audio, no one will see it. But that was amazing. I like that.
So I'm like, I've got like little crab hands. I'm like grabbing at the thoughts, like little thought crab. They're not going together, but they're there, just in the abstract.
So, like with our ADHD symptoms, it can mean that we have a greater risk of being socially rejected. Have you ever felt the need to like withdraw or like completely avoid social situations because it's just not worth the potential like rejection like at all?
Yeah,
that's a spicy question.
Pretty much.
That's a spicy question.
Spicy question. I'm gonna have to think about my answer for that.
I was gonna say, yeah, I definitely have had. There are some definite specific events where I know that I have skipped out on them because I have been concerned that the situation is going to be too overwhelming. And on some of those occasions, it's because of the potential of running into certain individuals that would cause me to become anxious. And it's not even necessarily that there's been an altercation with those people. For example, as I say, I used to be a youth worker.
Yeah.
And so there are certain places where I haven't got a problem seeing people that I used to work with. But there are certain people that were horrible teenagers that I have no desire to see them as adults. And if I have any inkling, and we've never had any kind of beef or anything, it's just I'd really rather they didn't see me or know anything about my life.
Yeah.
They don't need to know. So if I don't go to that thing where they maybe possibly there's a chance, which seems ridiculous when I say it like that. You know, I shouldn't fear going somewhere because the whole interaction would be fine. But it's kind of like, no, because I'll stress myself and then, you know, it'd be a whole thing. And yeah, no, I'd rather
stay at home. But no, it makes sense because it's just like, why cause yourself the extra anxiety, which you will then crash and pay for later while you're on hyper alert? Like, are they going to be here? Are they here? What are they thinking? Can they see me? Like, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Adrenaline, the rush, self-sabotage.
This feels like some sort of like poetry corner. Should we start clicking? I can't click though. I can't click. Self-sabotage. Buy yourself a cheese pizza. Pineapple does belong on pizza.
Pineapple does belong on pizza.
It does.
Just facts. I'm gonna not. Okay, I love pineapple on pizza. It's because I have a Hawaiian. I have ham, pineapple, and sweet corn. That's my favorite pizza. It's because it's the mix of the salty and the sweet, and it's subtle. And I say that if you don't like pineapple on pizza, then you just can't deal with the subtle, sweet, salty mixed flavors, and that's on your taste buds.
I wish I had a lighter because you've set some people on fire. I like pineapple on pizza, so I'm good. I'm not on fire. I'm safe.
So I have avoided places, but it's usually like if I've been fired from a job because of my behaviors, because of my undiagnosed ADHD, like I don't really want to go back there. because of shame, I guess, really. It's kind of like those things. But I learned when I was young that like a way to deal with like being scared of something is to go and have that experience again and have a positive experience and make positive memories in that space or with that person or whatever happened. So that because if you don't go there again, then your brain remembers that pain and associates that place with pain. So the places that I usually go or I've had those experiences, I want to go again, or with those people or whatever happened. So I'm like, okay, I want to go there when I'm in a good mood, when I'm feeling great, and like make positive memories so I don't associate that place with what happened. So like half of me is like, I don't want to go there. I don't want those people to see me ever again. And then half of me is like, fuck it, fuck them, you're a badass bitch.
Yeah.
They can't tell you, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, real dichotomies. And I can have those same feelings at the same time. Because two things can be true at once. So yeah, I think that's the only time that I've really kind of been like that, because I'm a person that's like, if you don't like me, then you don't like me. Like, I'm a Black, queer, non-binary, loud activist. Like, I can't hold my tongue. I've been told to hold my tongue, and I can't do it. I've got to say, when I see something, I'm going to say something, because I know no one else will, and I can't stand for things. I just can't. So I'm very much a person that will be there, and just if my existence and presence annoys someone, then I'm like, that's on you, babes. I'm just existing. So I ruffle feathers more than, but it's taken me a long time to get that confidence through therapy and through learning to love myself and who I am. And it's kind of just like, I'm never going to make everyone happy. So I may as well make myself happy.
I like that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's kind of, I don't really do like New Year's resolutions. I kind of do like themes for the years. So this year, my theme has been like joy and pleasure. So I only go to events that are going to nourish me and bring me joy and bring me pleasure. I try to only eat food that will bring me joy and bring me pleasure. Just like joy and pleasure is the main focus of my year. And it's been absolutely wonderful. I love it. So yeah, that's part of my journey of me at the moment.
I really love that. I'm like, oh my God, like, not that you're a mentor, I'm just like, be my mentor.
Do
like,
it.
I love this. Like,
start a trend.
My God,
yes.
This is amazing.
I mean, I learn a lot from other people. I'm not gatekeeping. I don't gatekeep happiness. Why would you want to do that? Like, if it helps you, take it. Like, we're all an amalgamation of everyone and everything that we've experienced. So if you want to take something, go for it. As long as you're giving credit where credit's due.
So, like, a question to you both, like, so when it comes to dealing with social anxiety, do either of you like have any like main tips that you could share with us that may help like others as well? So my social anxiety usually hits when it's like, okay, this event is happening at this time and I need to start getting ready at this time so I can leave at this time and get there in this time. ADHD means I have to organize stuff very well. I'm very good at it. So that's how I deal with part of my life, is really good organization. Hire me, cough, hire me. So usually the anxiety hits me when I'm like in my bed. I'm like, I don't want to get out of bed. I'm in my safe place. I'm comfy. This will put me out of that. I want to stay in this zone and just chilling. So what I do is I kind of think to myself,
what am I getting out of this? It's going to be joy. It's going to be fabulous. I'm going to be excited. I learned that your physical responses of your body can't really tell the difference between anxiety and excited. Like, if you think about when you're excited, you're kind of like buzzy and like...
Sorry, what's excitement? I don't know that. Who is that? What is that? What? Who? What? Where? What? Why? Sorry,
buzzy.
Go on.
When you feel buzzy, you got to go buzz buzz like a bee. So that's how you feel when you're excited, like physically. And then the same for anxiety. You kind of feel like a bit fuzzy, a bit like there's energy happening like physically in your body. And you feel uneased, but that unease can be a positive unease or a negative unease. So what I've started to do is just pretend I'm not nervous. I'm actually really excited, and like think about all of the positive things that could happen. Or like, oh, I'm going to see this friend that I haven't seen them in a while. I'm really happy to like learn about how their new job is going or whatever, and like start getting excited about that. And that converts like the nervous energy into like excited energy, and it tricks your brain into thinking you're happy. And smiling really helps. Just tricking your brain into doing things. And then I look up some affirmations online to be like, try and like trick my brain into like thinking this things. I was like, affirmations are like hocus pocus, that doesn't work, but like it does. I'm kind of annoyed at it that it's that simple, but they do actually work. And then sometimes if that doesn't work, sometimes I go to my support system, whether that be a group chat of friends or people that I live with, and just like, hey, I just need a little pick me up. Can you just hype me up a little bit to go do this thing? Or I put on like a song that I can't not get up and dance to. I have like a little playlist of like pick me up songs, and I just put that on. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give in and I'm gonna get a little wiggle. And I'm gonna just keep on wiggling, and then I just start dancing because it feels good. And then I'm up, so I may as well get up and start going ready. Or I sit and wait until I need to pee, and then I'm up, and then I may as well continue to start getting ready. It's just I trick myself. There's multiple ways of tricking myself.
Magician.
And then I'm up, so it's like, well, I'm out of that comfy, nice space now. So I guess I've got to do the thing. And then when I get there, I'm really happy. I'm like, well, what was all that about, Eden? What was it all about? Because it was about nothing. It wasn't about nothing, but it was also about nothing. But yeah, I just trick myself, basically. It's all about tricking yourself. That's what adulthood is, just tricking yourself.
Is that the dictionary definition?
Yes.
Adulthood.
Tricking yourself into thinking you know what you're doing and pretending that it is correct. That is all adulthood is. Sorry if any under 18s are listening to this. That is all adulthood is. And creaking bones.
And taxes.
And yeah, let's ignore that. It's just that, no. Rejects. Declined.
So how about you, Allison? Like, do you have any tips for like dealing with social anxiety that you use?
So yeah, it's really interesting because I know it's going to sound weird at this point in the conversation to kind of trying to make that differentiation between social interactions and interactions that I have to do that have a social element, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, for example, when I'm working, there's an element of networking. So, sometimes I have to go and walk into a room and have to present for, say, 200 people. That actually doesn't bother me, right? Because I'm doing my job and da-da-da-da. But then the small talky bit, and so depending on what it is, and obviously, as I said, I do D&I stuff. Actually, I'll tend to, like the T-shirts that I wear, I have a lot of slogan t-shirts. So this one's like,
sorry to interrupt you, but what does DNI stand for?
Oh, diversity and inclusion training.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, and because the training that I deliver, it's literally labelled intersectional approaches to D&I. They know I'm not coming from tick box, what is discrimination nonsense. We're beyond that. So a lot of the time it'll be what I wear. And so I'll wear t-shirts with slogans on. Just to give you an example, I had to go to, I was at a conference around personality disorder last year, and I knew that I was there as one of only a handful of Black people. So every day at that conference, I wore a t-shirt that said some kind of positive something about Black people. So on the day that I actually was delivering, I had a t-shirt that said, support, love, respect Black women. On one of the other days, I walked around with a t-shirt where it said, you can't loan it if you stole it. I just wandered around this conference the whole time wearing this t-shirt.
Where did you get that from? Because I need that right now.
Yeah, can we all have it? We need
just put a link. Just put a link.
I'll tell you what, I will try and find out where I got it from. And as soon as I got it, I will try and share it, because it's actually a friend of mine who's a journalist, and she ran a competition on her Instagram page. And it so happened I didn't put the two together because it was shared from a different page, and I just entered it. And she went, well, this is awkward. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize it was you. Oh, yeah. So yeah, I had that t-shirt. And, you know, sometimes I like, because I already know that I'm not going to fit that corporate, this is what somebody who's coming here to do. So I don't care. I've got like a hat that says unapologetic on it, and what, and so, yeah, I will subliminally get my message in there. But in other situations, I will, the music, it sounds almost like going to war, but I have a bit of a, hype myself up, and not necessarily that it's the rocky theme music, but it's all kind of things that get me sort of ready to stride my stride. And
energized.
I do, and I do tend to wear headphones a lot anyway. So while I'm stood looking very, very placid and very calm at the bus stop, basically Ludacris is "Move Bitches" screaming in my ears, and it's like, yeah, I'm feeling this, and in my head that's my entrance music, and it's like, move bitch, get out of the way kind of thing. So those kind of, I don't know, that potentially is a bit of the ADHD thing. I kind of gamify the whole thing. It's like, yeah, actually, if I can manage to make it to that bus stop by the time this song's finished, or that kind of stuff, almost like a distraction technique. And that's more so when I'm doing social things. When I'm doing professional things, as I say, I'll do it a lot more. I don't realize it's necessarily to combat that anxiety. It's more, actually, this makes me feel comfortable, so that lowers my anxiety. Whereas if I'm going somewhere that is a social thing, that is something that I genuinely want to do, I am more likely to anxiety myself out of it. So I have to kind of get my motivation on, and my kick-assness, and come on now, soundtrack to getting things done sort of thing. I mean, it doesn't always work.
Yeah.
That's what I try and do.
Allison, I had a little epiphany when you were saying like gamifying the like getting dressed and like the music and stuff. But I just was like, damn, that's an ADHD thing again. Okay. But like, yeah, because I remember when I was one of the places that I worked at, I started at like 7 a.m. and I am not a morning person at all. So I was like, and also I was, because I'm non-binary, I wasn't out at that time. So I was like, let's put on customer service student. That's a girl and a woman. And I kind of like felt like I was like in drag and like putting on a persona type thing. And like that's how I would get through that, because otherwise my mind would be racing and I'd be so anxious all the time, like how people are perceiving me, and like if I was doing things right, was a customer going to complain about me, blah blah blah, all those things. But like if I put on my persona, my customer service person persona, that's the best customer service that someone's ever got in their life, because I have got those compliments from people. Thank you. For those of you that tell the workers that they're doing a great job, it really brightens our day. Please continue to do that. So like I know I can do it. I know it's possible. So yeah, I just put on that persona, put on that thing, and like now when I sometimes dress up like hyper femininely, I feel like I'm in drag, even though I'm just me and like what I want to. But I'm like, I'm putting on this expression today, and I'm going out like this, which I think really helps. So yeah, I like that kind of like putting on like kind of like clothes can be armor sometimes, and like makeup and stuff. I feel like that really helps, because you're showing, because part of my anxiety is how people are perceiving me and what they're judging. So if I show them something on what I want to show, then that helps with that. And also with the music thing, most of my playlists are kind of like vibes or emotions that I want to feel. So I think that really helps as well. So like I have like, if I want to be sad, I have a sad playlist. If I want to be listening to like girly, sparkly Barbie pop, I have one playlist for that. I have a playlist for when I was closing down the restaurant, and that would be, so like I'm like, here's the vibe that I want, and this is the music that I'm going to listen to. And music can really change your mood. I think really for the neurodivergent people as well, because of how our brains connect so much, that it gives us an even bigger or more like higher experience than neurotypical people get. So music can change my mood almost instantly. So it's kind of like affirmations. Put out what you want in the world, on your body, in your mind, and just go with that flow, and hopefully it will take you where you want to end up. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it doesn't hurt to try.
Yeah, I really like that, because I find that like my music start again. I really like that, because I find that my music taste is quite different, and like there's like when I have chronic pain and when I'm in a lot of pain, there's this particular Lamb of God song where there's just silence, and then he just lets out this massive long scream. They're one of my favorite death metal bands, and like it's like the pressure's just being lifted. But then there'll be other like metal songs where I'm just like, yeah, got it. So yeah, like music can like do a lot. But I was thinking, like, as a recap, I'm trying to think like, what things have we like learned, and what did you find interesting? I think.
Before you say that, speaking of like recapping, I think that also writing when something went wrong, what I did to help myself, and then how that went, and kind of having like a journal or like receipts sort of like this tool I used in this situation, and this is how it turned out, and it turned out well. Only writing down the things that went well is kind of like building a toolbox for yourself, because especially when you're in an anxiety spiral, you kind of forget that there's other options than what's happening in your brain right now. So using that and like reading back on like, oh, okay, I have physical evidence that this thing went well, and this is what I did, and hopefully that will help me to deal with that thing. Sometimes just getting out of your mind like that really helps. So it was a really bad habit. I used to kind of just like hyper focus on work, like whether it was studying or whatever I was doing, like a project or something. I used it too much as a coping mechanism, but I think sometimes just getting your mind off of it just helps. And then because this reminds you that that thing that you're worrying about is not the whole world and it's not all encompassing. So yeah, I think like kind of having that resource to relay back and remind yourself that you have something in your toolbox and it worked is really helpful.
Yeah, it's nice when you have something tangible to kind of like remind you of like what positive things had happened or what had worked for you. It's like a nice reminder because it's so easy with our minds that keep spiraling to just forget everything. But thinking about like kind of like back to like other stuff like we've kind of learned and found interesting. I found like Allison from you when you were just like, it's okay for my brain to go on the spirals or the little tangents that it has. It's a part of me. I shouldn't feel bad. Like, I don't know if I can say that's something that, can I say that's something that I learned? Possibly. Because it hadn't occurred to me, like, I have quite a big negative space, which I'll try not to have. But it's just when you said that really just, yeah, I don't know. And then also, sorry, go on.
Well, no, I was going to say, and it kind of flashed in my head when you were just talking then, Eden. You know, one of the things that I definitely think I've come to realize is as much as we are trying to find techniques to deal with anxiety, actually, anxiety is a natural, normal reaction to a threat. It's there to protect you. You're meant to get anxious because that's what keeps you safe. It's the fact that your brain can't tell the difference between what is literally life or death and what is the thoughts in your brain making you react as if it's life or death, if that makes sense. So, you know, when you learn about your limbic system and how that goes into fight, flight, fawn, I think it's the last one,
freeze.
Fight, freeze, fawn, and there's another one, a fifth one.
Fight. Oh, there's a fifth one. Interesting.
Yeah, fight, flight, fawn,
and
fight,
freeze.
flight, freeze, fawn, and then they talk about this flop one, which is the literal where you
play dead.
Dead. Yeah. So, you know, when you realize that actually it's because you're having a physical reaction to an emotional memory that you never processed, actually that makes perfect sense because your body thinks you're in danger. So everything that's going on is normal. And even though in the moment you might not remember that, but I think part of one of the things, you know, one of the difficulties with anxiety is it brings a lot of shame. And so if you can minimize the shame, I've also found that can help to minimize the anxiety. If you know, actually, this is happening because my body thinks I'm about to die. I might not be. Look, I'm in my kitchen. We're safe. There's nothing going to harm me. It does help to calm my mind down, but that's usually when my brain's gone racing off there. But you asked me if I learned anything, and I think this thing of being able to be in a space with people that literally just get it, you know, like in terms of prior to this, the anxiety was high, but not in a, I don't want to do it. It's more like, I don't want to make an idiot of myself and I don't want to embarrass myself or say something stupid or, you know, that kind of thing. But just being around people that get it is hugely validating, and it's really, really affirming just to know that you're not alone.
Yeah, for sure.
You're not on your own with this stuff going on. You know, that's been really good.
Yeah, I like that.
So what I've learned from this, you sent us the questions, some of the questions first. And what I learned was that I don't know everything. It really made me like think back into my past and like think about myself internally and think about my anxiety, because I haven't really thought about it for years actually. So I kind of learned more about myself and learning that it is okay to raise thoughts and do things like that. It's okay to be anxious. It's just when things are overwhelming and all encompassing, that's when things need to be tackled. I think that I've learned also that, or been reminded, I should say, is that everything's connected. Because I didn't go into this with like planned anything. I kind of just word blurts. And as I said, sometimes I don't know what I'm thinking about. And sometimes I'm like, oh, people with neurodivergence, usually ADHD, autism, we process vocally using our words. So this was like a nice processing way. So I learned things about myself today. So yeah, thank you.
So thank you, Eden and Allison, for joining us. I really, really appreciate it. So would you like to tell the audience how they could get in touch with you or how they could not get in touch with you?
We ride at dawn. Come. I am on Instagram. I am at AJ Blackstar, all worded 99.
Awesome.
I keep my social media pretty private. But I'm going to give you my professional social media. I'm a wildlife conservationist. So my Instagram is Eden_plumber, but with 2 M's instead of a B. So like plum, no B. Yeah, I'm not really active on it, but hopefully I can change that soon.
And I have a new one, and mine is graphic resilience. So it's all one word. So let's keep the conversation going. If you're listening on Spotify, share your tips on how you can manage your social anxiety. If you'd like to join the ADHD Babes or learn more, you'll find the links in our website and our social pages in the show notes, as well as visiting ADHDbabes.com. Thank you for listening, and if you like today's episodes, please feel free to follow up so you don't miss future episodes. Also, review our show to help us grow and let everyone know your thoughts. Bye!
Bye. Please don't come at me for my opinions on pizza and pineapples.
Thanks for listening to this episode of ADHD Babes, the podcast. If you're a Black woman or non-binary person and need help and support in managing your ADHD or advice on diagnosis, please visit ADHDbabes.com. No clinical diagnosis is required to join. Join us in 2 weeks for a new episode. Until then, all the love from the ADHD Babes team.
Just as I am, can you take me just